here, Vin. All
Yeah.
right, Vin. Well, I'll get it started anyway while you're getting your shit figured out. All right. Well, we've been doing a recording and
Where
a
the fuck
live
do
at
I
the
get
same
it off?
time. This is an attempt to do both at the same time, which is tricky. So we're having some technical difficulties, as you can see. Vin is trying to figure out what the hell is going on.
I don't know. I got my volume all the way down and I'm still hearing it through my phone.
Are you sure it's through your phone?
Talk? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. It's all the way down.
um,
The fuck? Hang on.
I mean, I'm not really
Hang
hearing it.
on.
All right. Well, you like I said, I'm gonna get things started here, Vin. I'm gonna keep it rolling.
Cool.
All right. So Vin and I have been talking for the last couple of weeks about. First, we started with soul music, and now we have been diving into funk music. We talked last week about James Brown, and I called it the funk or the soul singularity, uh, where basically the perfect elements came all together to form funk music. And we talked about a bunch of different songs, and we ended up finding that talking about Papa's got a brand new bag, and we came to some pretty cool stuff about that, right, Vin?
Yes.
No, I know you're busy.
Oh, now
Vin's
I have to
busy
request it.
getting some stuff figured out. Oh, you got a request? Oh, I see you. I see you. We're gonna add Vin in here to the Instagram. Yeah, get in there, Vin. There we are. I see you.
Still going.
Still going, huh? I mean, like I said, it's not bothering me, man. It's not. I don't know that it's really picking up in the mic. So if it doesn't bother you, then
All
rock
right.
and roll. So
Cool.
so yeah, man. Last week, Papa's got a brand new bag. Funk music. Now we are here. We are in the heart of funk music. We dove deep. We made an agreement last week, though, right, Vin, that we were gonna pick out a James Brown song each to talk about, and then we were gonna use any other song that came to mind. Right?
Yeah. Oh,
That was
absolutely. Yep.
that was the parameters.
And I am ready to present, sir.
Oh, but hold on. I thought beforehand you had told me that I'm.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh,
I
okay.
went first last time, so
All right, all right. Well,
I
I'll
think
try
it's
not.
Phil week.
I'll try not to hog the ball too much. I guess when I look at the songs that we did this week, well, first and foremost, I guess a couple of things real fast, right? We should talk about um, if you guys. I mean, I'm sure you guys know there's this thing called COVID-19 that's going on, and Vin and I have been essentially unable to go play gigs and make money the way that we normally do. So we've been taking that time to do some of these things that are hopefully, I mean, they're great discussions for us and everything, and but they're educational for you. But to help us survive, um, if you feel like helping out, we both have Venmo accounts. Vin's is at Vincent Dash Mott, and mine is at Phil Dash Silverberg. Real easy, our names. So no pressure, but feel free to send something our way, send a little love. It's definitely all helpful and
And
definitely
it's
all
the end of the
appreciated.
month, so help us pay our rent.
Yeah, hell yeah, absolutely. So short little note right there. And then in addition to that, check out Spotify. Right now, we have a playlist to help you follow along. The songs that we're going to be talking about will all be in this Spotify playlist. It is now changed names to Vin and Phil Show. Is it the Vin and Phil Show, Vin, or is it just Vin and Phil Show? I
I think
forget.
it's just Vin and Phil show.
It's in big caps. If you see it in all caps, I'm yelling at you. That's the name of the show, at least for now. And I guess that leads me to another point, Vin. Before we dive in,
We need a new name.
we do. So, guys, anybody who's
Unfortunately, there are like 100 different shows called Two Guys from Jersey. And
yeah,
it's pretty whack, I know, and we
we
just
clearly
got
have the
kind of
best
going.
one, but
We-
but
the
yeah,
moral of the story is we can't just keep going under that name because there's too many other fucking things out there with that name. So, yeah, if you guys have a suggestion on a name,
yeah,
drop it in a comment. You
yeah.
know,
If you got ideas for names, well, we're accepting ideas. Literally, we'll accept all ideas. We're gonna start suggesting some. You can let us vote, or if you let us know if you want to vote on them, or if you like any of the ones that we're throwing out. But we kind of want to try and keep it to at least the subject matter we're talking about. So if something witty, cool, but
Something to
throw
do with
anything out.
music, maybe.
Yeah,
I don't know.
that'd be great. But that for now, Vin and Phil show it is. And so check out that Spotify list, like I said, and follow along as we talk about some music stuff.
To be
Um,
continued.
so I guess like I was about to say was that for me, man, when I think about the songs that we looked at this week, for the most part, and I think about funk in general, we touched on this last week a little bit, but bass, it's like synonymous, right? Like
Yeah.
they go hand in hand. Um, and so I definitely wanted to talk about the musicians, uh, the bassists, and definitely going to be talking about some of the drummers. And I think that an interesting time because these people became like got spotlighted. And it was always the front man that was but these guys were more a unit. That the whole band was they were all kind of superstars. And so like everybody was respected and people knew who each of the people were.
Right.
Um, which so it's an interesting kind of thing. Um, but like I said, I wanted to start with James Brown. I guess I'll start first rather than jumping ahead too far. Um, and we'll talk more about the drummers, I guess, because this one is not so much about not so is more about the drummer, not so much about the bassist. I'm sorry, we'll talk more about the basses. Um, so we'll get back to them. But "Funky Drummer" is the song I chose, and to me, it's well, I mean, I guess it's one of the most notable. Not I guess it is. I think the most sampled song of all time.
Yeah, I would have to agree. I think most everything you'll read on the internet agrees with that. It's also from a drummer standpoint, uh it's not as easy and intuitive of a drum part as it sounds. I mean, this is Clyde Stubblefield, I believe, right?
Absolutely,
And he is absolutely known for like his finesse on the kit, and in the drum beats that he wrote. I mean, I would say he wrote like this stuff is purely original drum set, drum beats. Just from like learning some of his stuff in the past, his stuff sounds so smooth, but when you go to learn it, you realize that this stuff is not. It doesn't just like flow right off the bat. Like,
sure.
this is stuff that you got to live with for a long time with the metronome at a slow tempo for. A really long time to gain that muscle memory and that bounce, and to learn the finesse that you'll only ever get a fraction of the finesse he had. But to learn that little bit of finesse, it takes quite some time and a lot of practice. His stuff is not easy to cover for sure.
Well, and I'm gonna cut back to the sampling and stuff like that, but really we hear the sample slowed down. Like you don't even realize how many times you've heard it used in songs because you don't realize that it's just a slowed down version of it because it still sounds great. At
Something tells me you're gonna have some examples of where this drum
Yeah,
beat
well,
has been seen.
I think we may end up. I think I may throw some onto the playlist just because I think it's a great again for people who don't really know hip hop per se to be able to go and listen to Funky Drummer and you know that song inside and out and then you go wow and it gives you a new appreciation for hip hop if you may not be a hip hop fan you go wow there was definitely well, I think personally, I'd love to, not right now, but at some point, I do. We got to do a cross into funk and hip hop.
Sure.
We got to talk, man, and we can bring some other people in on that. I told you, I would love
Yeah,
to do that
definitely.
because it's too good when you start every funk song you look up. It's just like sampled in this and sampled in that, but anyway, this one, as far as I could find, the statistic was there's over 1,580 songs that sample this song.
Wow. That's
That's a
insane.
lot of freaking songs. Um, so let's see. The song is great, obviously. Recorded in November 20th, 1969. So I think when we were talking was last week was 68, right? Really? I think it was
We
Papa's.
basically ended it at 68.
yeah, so this is, so the funk has come about. The sound is still developing for sure. James is playing with different types of feels to what it is, and this is kind of a different kind of funk feel than some of the other ones, right? Because it's got more of that because of how moving the hi hat is. It's not a slow. We don't feel it like a slow groove the way that like a real heavy. It's a pocket song for sure, but not that kind of like deep, slow pocket feel.
Mm-hmm.
And the drums are definitely driving the song along with the bass. The bass line's moving,
Yeah.
it's moving the whole time, and those two things are driving the whole song. Um, and really, all it was a live jam with James leading the way. Again, we've talked about this was kind of like a typical thing for him. That was pretty standard. Um, let's see. Um, Actually, there's a cool part, and I want you to check this out for me, Ben. Obviously not right now, but early in the song, it sounds like he almost flips the beat for a second, and
Oh.
he holds it together because you can hear how the part locks in with the horn section for a second, where he's accenting just off. You're just like, oh, and
Yeah,
then
yeah.
he just
I'll definitely have to check it out. But like I
it's pretty.
said, man, the stuff Stubblefield was
I don't know.
writing was
Well, that's the
was
thing is I don't know that it's a
crazy.
mistake. That's why I want to. I'm not trying to say it's a mistake. The guy, in fact, I would be not surprised either way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If it was a moment that he held it together, very very possible. If it was, you know, totally on purpose, also absolutely possible.
I mean, he could have been tripping over his own feet. We
hundred
don't
percent.
know. I'll have to take a listen for you.
It's
For
early on.
sure. I
I'll
mean, I
find
know
you.
the tune. I
I
would
should have taken a
definitely have to.
timestamp. Yeah, I should have taken.
Yeah.
It's early in the song. Like I said, I should have taken a timestamp. I'll get you a timestamp so that I can just show you exactly. And that'll be a good thing to talk about in the comments or something like that. And there was we obviously see this as part one and part two. It's because the single was released. It's like a 9-minute song, so they released it as like a side one, side. That was the whole thing.
Yeah.
And it didn't. Let's see. What else I got on this one? But it wasn't released on an album until 1986 on the 1986 compilation. So the single was out in '69, but not officially released on an album until much
Mm,
later. Um, kind of interesting. And the main
yeah.
difference is that the single has James's vocals, like his, you can hear his vocal sounds, his not just his
Sure. We're
lead.
in late 60s era, early 70s, late
Yeah,
60s, right? 69 you said. So
yep,
now we're like we're past the transitional period. Like now we're in where what James Brown becomes.
right.
And that vocal style, we were talking about it last week. I compare it to like a boxer. We both compared it to like the gospel thing with the
A
preacher and
preacher
the
kind of leading the
choir
way. Yeah, yeah.
kind of thing going all at once. We're definitely that's like where we're at in this era of James Brown for sure. Yeah.
Sure. And so real fast, because there's not too much to talk about it. I just really wanted to talk about it because it's because of how much sampled it was. In terms of personnel, we talked about already Clyde Stubblefield on the drums. Charles Sherrill was on the bass. We've seen him on the bass at this time period. He was definitely the guy. Jimmy Nolan on guitar, same thing, was definitely the guy. And then we had another guitar player, Alfonso Country Kellum. Rich Cush Griffith on trumpet. Joe Davis on trumpet. Fred Wesley on trombone. Maceo Parker on tenor sax, L.D. Williams on tenor sax, St. Clair Pickney on bari sax. Um, so, some of the names that we see, these guys were with him a lot. Let's see. The big thing, obviously, is that as James leads them through the song, the big thing is the famous drummer break,
Of
where
course.
he famously says, "Give the drummer some," right?
And
And
every band leader in the world has
since,
basically taken that and thrown that in their show.
exactly. And he actually says, if you listen, he says to Clyde Stubblefield in the track, he's saying, "No, you don't have to do nothing, no soloing, brother. Just keep what you got. Don't turn it loose because it's a mother, right?" So and really it's a solo, but we talked about this last week. It's a break, right? It became like really what became the break beat, one of the
Hmm.
breaks for break beats and that kind of thing. right? Um, and uh, he doesn't really solo there. He plays the groove that he's been playing the whole time, and he just keeps it perfect, you know.
Yeah.
And so, like I said, that's the birth of the breakbeat, if you ask me. Which is again another reason why we had to talk about this. Right after that, James is clearly impressed with the solo, and he like straight up just says the name of this tune is the Funky Drummer. You know, dude, name the song in the song. you know, it's like he was just
James
so
was not a
impressed.
man of many metaphors. Let's just say that.
This song is the Funky Drummer, he said. Now,
Metaphors were not his thing.
um, and in terms of like music theory, I think it's just in C. It's like D minor and C. It's like the whole time. It's really just riding the groove the whole time. Not much else going on. Well, I mean, I guess there's a couple solos here. There's the organ solo. You know, there's a couple little, but then it's not even. It's not about them. It's you know what I mean. It's really just
Hmm.
their little touches here. Um, you know, but I guess the one for me sad thing about this is that Stubblefield was paid as a session guy one time for that, right?
Yeah,
So Matt,
I think that's pretty common back in the day
it's still
too.
common
You
now.
know.
It's a problem, you know what I mean? And it's but it's crazy in something like this, that where it's sampled that many times that nobody along the way was like, this is that guy wrote that part, and there's nothing else happening in that moment except for what he is doing, you know. It's a conversation, you know, and it's a who knows.
True.
Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, and then real fast, just to touch on some songs that was sampled in. You know, for people that are out there that are not hip hop heads, I get it, I understand, but you know, if you some of these are songs you probably at least heard, whether you realize it or not. Public Enemy, "Fight the Power," is a slowed down version of it. Also, Public Enemy, "Rebel Without a Pause." So it's interesting, you know, like it's crazy. People got hooked on this groove so much, and they could use it so many different ways that like same group is using it. Nobody said anything about it. Dr. Dre, "Let Me Ride" is slowed down version. Also, great song. If you know, again, one that you probably know. Um, and these are some interesting ones. I mean, I'm a Most Def fan. Song Mathematics just got some samples in there. It's
Hmm.
not always the drum break. Sometimes people definitely use some of the vocals from James on some of these, so it's not always the funky drummer. Just you know, like just that break. And then an interesting one, and one that I'd love to talk at some, like I said, at some point with you about is Jazz featuring Jay Z. Jay Z. It was Jazz is Jaz featuring Jay Z.
Hmm.
And it's really like he was the guy that gave I think it might even be this song, "The Originators," where he was like putting Jay Z on. It's before Jay Z was just by himself, like real young Jay Z, and you hear him, and it's really this very much a jazz hip hop type of style. Like the samples are jazz, and also the delivery of the lyrics, the flow is very you know, a different type of rapping.
Right.
Very, very intelligent. Not that other rapping is not intelligent. I hate, you know, but it would be the same way I would say that a jazz musician's solo is intelligent.
Sure.
You know, what I mean, like
Sure. Right.
I'm
Right.
not
Right.
knocking other things. It's like we know that that's a
It's
studied way,
it's
specifics.
almost its own separate way of like phrasing
Right.
and
Yeah.
things like that.
I
Yeah.
don't actually mean it in terms of intelligence. No offense, anybody. But yeah, I mean, that's I think that's pretty much all I got on this one. I mean, like, again, we could
Cool.
talk about it forever and ever, of course, because like
Yeah.
you know, but
It's
you
a
know,
that song especially is like historically important,
exactly.
because of what it became later in the I guess it would be even the 70s, when and of course the 80s, and all through the 90s and today in hip hop, we still hear James Brown's music being sampled, and especially Funky Drummer.
Yep. Yep.
um, it's without a doubt the most sampled drum beat ever,
Yeah. For
and
real.
it's 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 definitely historically important, that tune, and to know it, I don't think it's even like a like I don't think many people know that tune. To be honest with you, like I don't think a lot of I don't think it's like a mainstay James Brown tune to me.
Maybe not, but I mean, No, I guess not. Excuse me. No, I agree
which is
with you.
cool. It makes it cooler, you know. Like,
Yeah, yeah. It's not. I guess the reason I know it is because of producing hip hop and like you know you gotta know that. If you don't know what that is, you know.
right
Um,
now you do, motherfuckers.
yeah, yeah. No, it's a staple and used outside of hip hop too. Of course, like you know you were saying that groove and that groove slowed down. Like I said, you can use that in so many different ways, and it feels you know, it has a slightly different feel, even though it's all physically the same, like movements, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Word.
well, take it away, man. I'm excited for this.
Cool.
I know you got something for me.
Yeah. So,
Lay it on me,
should
dog.
I? So, I guess should I just do my James Brown tune today?
Yeah, let's
Right
start there.
now?
Let's start with
Yeah.
the JBs, and then even if you want to lead right into your next one, and then I'll take the last one. How or if you
Okay.
want to switch off, whatever you want to do. You
So,
know.
well, if I do that, it won't make too much sense because the James Brown tune I got is a little later than the other tune that I
All
had
right. Well then.
researched.
All right. Well then. So then do whatever the heck you want to do, man. Let's. I'm along for the ride. Let's rock.
Um,
I'm with you.
all right, I'll talk about the James Brown tune. So I picked "Doing It to Death" by the JBs, and
This
this
song.
is yeah. So this song is kind of funny because it was
Well,
very obviously yeah. Go ahead.
can I just say real fast? And I don't. Well, I hope I'm not spoiling. I this song people might know it as "We're Gonna Have a Funky Good Time."
That's true because at no point in this song does he say "doing it to death." At no point whatsoever. But the hook is yes, we're gonna have a funky good time. I'm gonna get to that in just a second too because
Okay, I'm sorry.
there's
I didn't.
some
I hope I didn't.
stuff there.
I hope I didn't
It's
spoil it. I'm
at
sorry.
least just like a point to make with that.
Okay, all right. I
But
apologize. Go
the
ahead. Continue,
the
please.
weirdest thing about this tune is it's obviously it's written by James Brown, the lyrics are by James Brown. It's James Brown leading a band off the cuff in the studio, but it was released as Fred Wesley and the
Right,
JBs,
right.
which is
Interesting.
weird. I don't know. I couldn't find out why that was the way they released it, but for whatever reason, that's the way they released it under the trombone player's name.
Right.
Um, which is crazy. It was released in April 1975 on James Brown's label that he owned at the time called People Records.
Sure.
It reached number 1 on the Soul Singles chart. It was number 22 on the Billboard Hot 100 chart. And there's two different versions of this tune. There's the original long play version that was 10 minutes and 1 seconds, which is awesome. And I think like anyone who listens to this song like wishes it would go long. Like anyone who knows just the chopped version wishes it was that long because this song could go forever. And you'd never get bored of it. You know, the groove, I'm going to talk about the groove in just a second. The single version is 5 minutes and 5 seconds. So think about that for a second. So 10 minutes and 1 seconds, 1001. And then the single version is 5 minutes and 5 seconds. I want to say, again, I couldn't find info on this, but I want to say that was done completely on purpose when they chopped it. They chopped it directly in half of the time.
Right.
I feel like it's too big of a coincidence.
Yeah, probably. They probably just were like, yeah, no, James, this
You
is
know, they chopped both the minutes and time in half, basically.
right.
You know. So this tune, one of the cool things about this tune, I'll come back to this point, but it's in the key of F, right? And it's just a
Oh,
jam
yeah.
in the key of F. But at some point in this tune, it modulates to down to D, which is a
Yeah.
downward modulation. I have more on that in just a second. The tune itself, it starts with uh well, let me just say this. The version I know and the version that I have on my iTunes and that the only version I've listened to forever has this really killer intro. And I don't know if this is on the original version. I didn't look up like the original 10-minute version, but on the version I have, it starts with like an old school MC, right? Like sort of like that old fashioned kind of announcer voice. And he comes, it's just that voice, and he goes, "Ladies and gentlemen, there are 7 acknowledged wonders of the world. You are about to witness the 8th. Standing in the spotlight on showcase are 12 young men who have given you such tunes as The Grunt, Pass the Peas, Give Me Some More. Ladies and gentlemen, without a doubt, these are the JBs." And then he goes, "Hit it." Bam, bam, dink, dink, and the tune just drops in. Hit it. Bam,
Yep.
and it's just like the heaviest drop in music. It's so badass. It's gonna be on the playlist. Check out the playlist. Vin and Phil, the Vin and Phil Show now on Spotify. We are looking for a new name, but check that tune. Check out how this tune comes in. It's fucking awesome.
So I'll try and see if I can get both versions. I'll see if I can find that version and also have the
I'm
full
just
original
interested
10
to
minute.
see, because I've never heard like the long original version to
Sure.
know that like that part is on it. But it may have been added for whatever compilation I have it on, you know.
Right.
But
Nah,
it's
but I'll
such
check
a
it out.
cool intro. Do you know what I'm talking about? Have you heard
I'm
that
not sure.
intro?
I'm not sure if I heard that intro or not. I'm trying
It's
to remember.
so cool.
So
it's like an old school voice announcer, you know, like an old school MC.
This got called at the gig I played the other night, and it but here's the thing, it threw me for a loop because I was trying to think of like what would the keyboard do. There's not really a keyboard part in that song.
Yeah, true. Yes, there's not. There's no keyboard
it's
on
really
that
just
song.
like it's really just like guitar, the drums and the bass. Like I can't. I'm
Yeah.
trying to hear it in my head, but I don't.
And
I don't hear too much else
and
going on.
the solos
the horns,
are just horn solos.
Right.
Yeah.
And then the
so
and then the vocals, like they're all kind of like a choir, or a chorus kind of thing.
kind of like gang vocals
Gang vocal,
almost.
yeah. Yeah, well, and that's where you get the Fred. definitely.
Well, the hooks are kind of all sang together, but then in between the hooks is just James kind of interacting with the band. The whole at the beginning, he sort of like greets the band. I call it. He greets the band. He kind of
Sure.
goes through almost each band member and has a quip for each one of them, you know. And in between all the hooks, we're gonna have a funky good time. We're gonna have a funky good time. I got to take you higher, right? And then he just like kind of just he's almost like he like makes quips at the band members, and like the band members are yelling back at him. The whole thing is a straight party,
like a party
from front to back.
Yep.
There's a big solo section by Fred Wesley. There's also, I think, a solo section by Maceo Parker in the longer version.
Mm-hmm.
This is the first. So Maceo Parker had left the band for like a year or two to try and break off on his own.
Sure.
His career didn't do his solo career didn't do much, so he came back to the James Brown, which by then it was the JBs,
right?
And this was his first recording with the JBs back with them.
So let him stretch a little.
Yeah. This song features a really, really killer funky shuffle beat by not one of James Brown's other great, amazing drummers, Jabo Starks. One of the, him and Clyde Stubblefield just wrote the book on funk drumming.
Right.
Completely. You could listen to those two drummers alone and you'd learn everything you would ever need
for sure
to play funk drums. And the most intricate shit to the very most simple, basic but
perfect
parts.
Yeah.
It also features this chicken scratching kind of guitar part by the guitar player's name is Jimmy Nolan.
Yep.
And he plays this like, I think it's a dotted eighth note kind of repeat thing. Jink 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 jink
Yeah,
jink,
it's
jink,
so good.
jink, 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 to that like over. It's just like over the beats, like over the bar. It's not
Mhm.
over the bar line, but it's like over the
The
beat
imaginary. Yeah,
lines.
yeah.
Jink, 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 jink. But it's very even. It's not. It's not like it's
It's yeah, no, it's rigid.
yeah.
It's not. He's not laying. It's not like laying way back on it. It's right down.
Yeah, no, it's right on it. Jink, 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 jink. It's killer. It's one of the best guitar parts ever, and it happens the entire time. There's no deviation on it.
No, again, that's
No
what
deviation.
that's
There's
what's
no deviation on that shuffle beat
all
either.
of
There's
them.
no fills. There's no fills.
Nope.
There's not. I don't
You
think
got
there's
one
even
job.
any crashes.
It's not about you. It's not about you. It's not about any of them. That's
No. It's really not. Now, let me talk about, I said it before, the modulation in this tune.
Yeah.
It starts in F and goes and modulates down to D, which is a major third.
D to F would be a minor third, but going down always confuses me.
Yeah, it always confuses me. It's the six. D is the six in F, right?
Right. Correct.
So whatever that is, it's really highly unusual that that's the modulation that happens, because most of the time songwriters, when they modulate up, to give a lift in a song. So and normally in my experience and listening, that usually only happens in like either a half step or maybe a whole step.
Yeah,
if the songwriter is really feeling frisky. This modulates downward in a large jump, a larger modulation.
No, I think it's we'll say it's a third.
It's a third. He modulates down a third.
I don't know if it's a major or minor. I can't think of that. It hurts.
I don't know what to call
somebody
it.
who knows those things, fix that for us. Let us know.
Feel free to comment.
Yeah, let us know we're idiots
if you know it.
But yeah, no, that is unusual. I mean, there are definitely we can have. I'd love to have this discussion too. There are other modulations you can go to. This one is an odd one for sure. You'll see a fourth.
It's highly unusual, and like to hear the music go from where it starts. I'm not even if you know nothing about music, go from where you're hearing it for I don't know 4 minutes of the tune. It's in F, and then all of a sudden it drops downward, and then does the same thing, just jams on a lower note, for lack of a better term for you non-music people. Like that, whether you know it or not, like that, that's very rare that happens. And this is one of the places where we hear that, and it's like shocking the first time as a musician. Like I was already pretty deep into my music study when I heard this tune. I was I guess probably at Berkeley, maybe even senior year of high school when I heard this song for the first time. And it was like sort of borderline shocking to hear it drop.
Well, yeah. Well, so the reason I mentioned that, that I got called on the gig is that part caught me totally. I forgot about it. It was like, oh crap.
Yeah.
Not to mention, the chords in general. It's all like sharp 9 or like flat 9 kind of.
Right.
It's the sharp 9s.
I call it the key of F, and it's like, a lot of times with this funk music, I'm finding, especially because this tune and my other tune had a lot of similarities, but like you call it F, but it whether it's major or minor can sometimes be ambiguous.
Sure. Well, I mean, the benefit of just kind of hanging out on one groove or one change is that.
Yeah.
And
sometimes like the guitar players are just playing the root and the fifth, like the high up on the high strings and stuff. Yeah. And like it's tough and if there's no keyboard player especially, it makes it even twice as tough to figure out what exactly to call it. But like it's definitely the key of F moves to the key of D, and that movement, that modulation is crazy to me.
Oh no, it is.
The way he moves it though, like obviously this can't just happen randomly in the song, right? Or nobody would have any fucking clue what the fuck just happened, right? And like James Brown always has a vocal cue, like Phil said with Funky Drummer. He's got the cue. Let's give the drummer some. This tune has a similar cue where he says something around the lines of, I gotta get down. In order for me to get down, I got to get in D. Can we get in D? I got to get in D. In order for me to get down, I got to get in D. And that's the cue. And then the next downbeat, it's in D. It just full blown turns on a dime into D.
He may not have had any rhyme or reason at all. He might have just had that moment where he just, shit, I need to hear this in D right now.
So killing.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's that. I think that's about it. Now, the one thing I also mentioned this earlier, how with the hook, right? This tune, literally, there's like I said, there's the version I know has this intro that's done by an MC, right? And then James Brown says, "Hit it." The music drops on you like a ton of bricks. Fucking badass. Then he raps. He kind of interacts with the band. There's only 2 lines in this song. We're gonna have a funky good time,
right?
And we got to take you higher.
Yeah,
those are the only 2 lines written for the whole song. 2 lines.
It must have taken them a long time.
He brings it back just like when he's ready to do it. When he's ready to do it, he kind of like leaves a little gap before he starts singing.
Yeah,
and that's kind of the cue.
Well, it's because he's probably looking over at the guys and going,
yeah. Yes. And that's it. It's a tune that literally has 2 lines. We gonna have a funky good time. He says that like 4 times or 8 times. And he says, we got to take you higher.
Yeah, man.
That's that's all the lyrics in this song.
So all you songwriters out there, take notes. Take notes.
That's what I got. What I got. Yeah. Songwriters out there, take notes, man. You can get it out with 2 lines. You get your
what
whole
else is there in that
out.
Song? In all seriousness, like you said, that groove is so killing that it can go.
And the Jabo starts with this bass. The bass drum plays the full shuffle, boom, 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 and it never breaks.
Stops. And yeah, it's
the
right
whole
there
time,
the whole time
with the hard backbeat and just like the little tiny little ghost note on the first and third triplet, and the right hand going on the closed hi hat. It's hardcore shuffling. That's hardcore shuffling.
Well, I mean, I guess if you're cool, I'll take it back on over.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, all right. Well, so now I guess it's time to start talking about the basis, right? We this was all drummer
goes
grooves.
So along. We didn't play. Look, we don't really have planned these too much when we do them. Obviously, if you couldn't tell, but like this couldn't have been planned any better, and we did no planning of this because my song's gonna have a heavy bass part as well.
So yeah. So the songs we kind of talked about are definitely funk songs, no question about it. The last 2 that we just did, these last 2 JB songs, right? Were definitely no question about it, funk songs. But these, I guess the next couple songs, I guess we're a little bit later on, not too much. We're a couple years later now. I think the song I'm about to talk about, let's see, is 1976, right? So we got a couple years after funk is already kind of taken shape, taken form. And I think at that point, bass has now established itself as like, this is the instrument that makes funk. And we see a lot of the famous bassists come to the forefront. Now, really, the bassist that, to me, kind of the one that like leads to the funk sound that I think of is really in Sly and the Family Stone, which hint,
Larry Graham.
Hint. Yeah, and that's the thing.
More on that later.
Exactly. I don't want to go too deep with it, but basically, it starts with Larry Graham. If you're talking about slap and pop and thump, or plucking all different types of names, but we all know what I'm talking about. It's that famous bass sound that you know as the funk sound.
Mm-hmm.
Now, like I said, it starts, in my opinion, with Larry Graham. However, I'm gonna jump over there because I think I'm gonna let Vin handle that. And I'm gonna go over to well, another famous bassist, and I'm gonna talk about Parliament Funkadelic, P Funk. I think this song is actually
Yeah,
just
baby.
directly under Parliament. I think. Now, I found out some interesting stuff. Oh well, I guess. Oh, okay. First, the song is "Give Up the Funk, Tear the Roof Off the Sucker." Right? And I forget. I think it's actually titled the other way. I think it's actually "Tear the Roof Off the Sucker" and parentheses
I
"Give Up the Funk."
think
I
so.
forget.
Yeah.
Um, so
I have Berkeley friends who are pissed off that I don't know right
yeah, no, but it's all right. But
now.
there's too much history in this group. It's hard to keep track of it all because it gets weird. It's all over the place. But first and foremost, I had no idea. They're Jersey boys.
Yeah. Yes. At
Plain
least half of them are.
Plainfield, New Jersey.
You know,
Now,
I don't
well,
think
so
Bootsy and Catfish, I think, are from
correct. They're not.
Cincinnati.
No, yeah. Well, so check it out. So this I dug into this a little bit. So, um, they're from Plainfield, New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they were originally called the Parliaments, right? Where am I? I'm getting to my notes. Um, yeah. Oh, here we go. So originally called the Parliaments, and they were a doo-wop vocal group.
Wow.
It was
Yeah.
it was
Like,
George Clinton, Ray Davis, Fuzzy Haskins, Calvin Simon, and Grady Thomas, and they were a straight up doo-wop vocal group out of Plainfield, New Jersey.
and what a coincidence that like last week we talked all about James Brown
Yeah,
and
and how the doo-wop and all that stuff
that
really
how
changed.
he was in yeah, he came from the doo-wop background singing in doo-wop and R&B and became, it's the same story here.
Right, and so I had no idea about any of that, so I thought that was pretty cool. Then they got signed, but there was an issue at some point, and he lost. George Clinton was the leader essentially, kind of like just kind of just happened that way, and he lost the rights to the name the Parliaments, and in that time formed the just Funkadelic,
Mm.
and that was a different project with a lot of the same parts, like same people, same personnel, but not exactly. And then made Parliament so that so he could avoid the Parliament's
Yeah,
situation.
yeah.
So now he's got two bands, literally Parliament and Funkadelic. And George Clinton is the leader of both. And like I said, the personnel is similar, but they really were marketing them as two different types of. They were both
Mm.
supposed to be funk bands. Nobody was trying to hide that, but they were different kinds of funk.
Yeah.
Um,
Huh.
so and we could go on again on the history of them forever because it really gets interesting. I didn't want to go too much deeper than that because that gets me to just where I want to get right now. Um, but it gives you an idea of just where some of the background comes from. Um, Later on, Bootsy joined the band, and actually, this song at this point, Bootsy's on this. He had already been there. Actually, I didn't get the personnel. I should go look up the personnel on this. But Bootsy joined the band in 1972, leaving James's band, and
Yeah,
and
right.
same thing. The
He
horny.
and
Go
he
ahead.
left James's band because he basically was doing too much LSD on the road.
And the horny horns, which were also the horn sections out of were some of the horn sections from the JBs also. So like pretty much like Parliament just kind of grabbed the JBs and made them part of them. Um, but again, I think I mentioned last week that's important because the lineage of funk stayed very true because it came, like the people who really created it also then went into these other projects, and you can see where it went and bled into all these other projects. Um, so let's see. That's pretty much that on the background of it. Um, or not? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, but now,
Jersey boys, fuck yeah.
yeah, pretty cool. Like I said, I guess I had no idea. But that's really interesting to me. Um, so It was the second single released from the Parliament's Mothership collection. It reached number 5 on the Billboard Hot Soul Singles and number 15 on the Billboard Hot 100 Pop Singles. And it was the first certified million-selling single for them. So I guess that I think it got them a gold record, I think, at that time in 1976. So that's pretty cool. The song famously starts with the bass vocal to the roof of the sucker, right? And that's Ray Davis, who's the bass from the group originally, and he's one of the original members who in the vocal doo-wop group. So he's like truly the bass guy. And in the, I guess that I forget which version. One version, like I whatever the radio version was, that didn't have that on it, but the album cut has it. If you really want to break down the song, you can kind of see there's a huge jazz influence on this structurally, and you don't think of it because it's not necessarily overt. It's not like in your face, this is jazz, because it's not. But they are definitely taking elements from their understanding of jazz and including it in what they're doing. The first thing is that you've really got this 3 theme kind of thing that happens. You've got an A, B, and C kind of theme, and for this, it really associates with a lyric. You got a real type of thing, right? That's the first lyric. That's the A section with the syncopated bass line kind of going on.
Mm-hmm.
B section is the "We Want the Phone,"
Sure.
chorus section, and the bass line is essentially doubling the vocal line. Essentially, he's outlining it a little bit more, but he's essentially just doubling with it. Then you got the C section is like the la 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 la.
Yeah.
And this is kind of similar to the bass is kind of still doing similar, kind of playing to the theme while they're singing the la 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 over that. Then the song restates those themes a second time, right? It goes through ABC fast, and then it restates them slightly longer and makes them more elaborate. So now like there's an A section that's 16 bars all of a sudden. It was like 4 the last time. And then the B section they elaborate for 56 bars. And in that time it ends up leading into, they develop more and more themes. They've got it's all over the B theme. Like the bass line is still just going the whole time. Do, 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 do. But then you get we're going to turn this mother out. That lyric comes out.
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah.
And that's kind of a new idea that's in there.
Their songs can be kind of journeys in their own right,
Right. And again, it is a schooling in simplicity of lyrics, because there was actual meaning behind some of these. It wasn't just total nonsensical as much as people want to believe about these guys. They were definitely having fun all the time, for sure. But like the next lyric, the last, I guess they called them like a sub theme, is "Let us in, we'll turn this mother out." Right. And that lyric is actually a reference. They were feeling that the music industry was doing their best to keep them out of the music industry. So it was definitely, that was actually a lyric that was directed at the music industry, is like, "Let us in, we'll tear this mother out." So pretty cool. And then more of the influence happens when you really listen to how the parts are interacting with each other. Again, we talked about this. This is an important part of funk in general, that you hear that, like, the hi-hat is working with the guitar player, and the bass is working with the kick drum, and
right.
And in this case, the bass is working with the kick drum and snare drum and the vocal line at the same time, and those 3 things are happening. And then the synthesizer is reacting to the vocal line and the bass line.
Bernie, I love Bernie.
Exactly. Yeah. No. So I guess there's some of the personnel we don't even need to go look up. We know exactly who it is.
Yeah, man.
And that
Bernie.
And that synth sound that he made famous. I gotta look it up. I think it's a Moog Mini Moog. I think there's I know some other synths that sound that way, but I know he was a Moog player for sure.
Is it the one that sounds like, dude, before I was,
it's on Flashlight also. It's the same kind of sound.
Yeah.
It's like a string sound.
It's the one I'm thinking of.
Yeah, it's kind of like a string sound.
Before I was like real big on them, and like I started meeting these kids at Berkeley who were really into them, and like I never heard of them and shit. And I'd heard of them, but I'd never heard their music really outside of like movies. And then like that one sound that he's got, that like when he plays the low keys and it just sounds like and I'm just like, dude, what's with the fart sounds in their songs? Because it would like crack me up. They're like, no, man, no, that's Bernie, bro. That's Bernie. I'm like, dude, it just sounds like he's like making fart sounds. Is that the one you're talking about? Because that
um,
one, I
I'm
learned to really
sure.
love it.
I'm
I
sure
learned
that
to love it, but
that sounds like a Moog oscillator could do that also. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's a Moog oscillator that you're imitating.
it was hilarious when I
the-
first heard it.
I-
I was like, wait, like the first time, like I must have been smoking fucking weed or whatever, and fucking we'd be like sitting there and it'd be on, and I heard that, and I was
yeah,
like,
like I
did you
said,
hear that?
yeah,
Did you
no,
hear
that.
that?
Yeah, no, I think you're probably talking about just some low notes from the oscillators and a Moog and what they can do. But yeah, like you said, Bernie Worrell on keys on this one. And it's really interesting, in terms of personnel, there's a bunch of there's more people on it, but primarily what we hear is a bass, a synth, and a drummer. If you really listen to this whole song and you think about it, and that's what, again, that goes back to our point about the bass driving the whole thing. This is clearly about the bass.
True.
The synth is
And
just like
horns, right? They got there's
so
heavy
okay,
ones
yes,
on this.
no, there are horns, guitar, and another synth pad that come in here or there, but the song is primarily really go. If you go listen
True.
again, you'll be shocked. You'll be like, wow, for the most part, and it's impressive because again, ultimately later, I guess they were really a larger band, but um, at the time it wasn't like it was a huge project, but the stuff sounds massive. Again, gang vocals, like it sounds like this big freaking thing that's going
God,
on.
we like read each other's minds today. I'm telling
you. And then my last little bit on it is just that in terms, again, sampled songs. I'm gonna be bringing this up every time, but this one, from what I could find, had 55 samples. I'm obviously not gonna go through them all. The big ones that I could name. The first one, I think, if you know Snoop Dogg at all, you'll know, is "What Am I? What's My Name?" Is that it's definitely
Snoop.
yeah, and that one, it's pretty obvious. MC Hammer had the song called "Turn This Mother Out." I think that's an obvious homage, and definitely uses the sample in there. Method Man and Redman have a song called "Tear It Off," also using it.
Yeah, that's one I know real good.
And there's a lot of references to in popular music, the tear the roof off the mother sucker. I mean, like, yeah, we're gonna turn this mother out. It's all we hear this, in referred to in pop culture and pop music again and again and again.
Absolutely.
So give up the funk, tear the roof off the mother sucker.
Fuck yeah, man. Jersey for fucking life, baby.
Hell
Hell
yeah.
yeah.
Hell yeah. So take it away here, Vin.
All right. So fuck yeah. I'm gonna take you back to the 60s.
Uh-oh.
1969 to be exact. I'm going to talk about Sly and the Family Stone. The song is called "Thank You for Letting Me Be Myself Again."
I'm not going to make you spell it, but people, if you don't know how this is spelled, it is not the way you think it is. Let's just put it that way.
So it's thank you, and then in parentheses, it's I'm not gonna spell it for you, but if you know, it's spelled like the only way I can explain it is like if like a first grader was making a joke about the name. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like,
and this is a common theme for their titles. It's all plays on words, right? It's the whole time. It would be those games where they show you pictures and you have to look at the pictures together, and then you put the words that they make.
Yeah,
you make the word.
It's a little weird. I don't know why they did that, but I
could tell you
why.
You
know what I mean?
Because there was not a sober one in the bunch when they were coming up with titles.
They were probably mad high all the time. So Sly and the Family Stone, "Thank You for Letting Me Be Myself Again," written by Sly Stone. It's in the key of E. Like I said, it's like an ambiguous key of E. It's basically just one chord the entire time, key of E.
Yeah, I didn't even talk about that on the last one, but it's the same deal.
Yeah, same deal. That's like I said, like we kind of went over last week. It's
there was, you know what? There is one little thing I wanted to touch on. I'm sorry, I forgot that there's the riff, and it's everybody plays the riff wrong, because in when we got the funk.
Uh-oh.
Right? The second time in the riff is actually a hair faster.
Even still, fuck that. All right, we're back. We're back.
So
we had technical difficulties. I'm going to do my last song here, and then we'll probably wrap it up.
All right. Well, so I don't even remember where we left off. I know you were taking over.
That's
I don't know.
fine.
I think you started, but then I went back, and then it was.
That's fine. I'll just restart again, just for everyone. I'm talking about Sly and the Family Stone. Thank you for letting me be myself. If we have anything that we can salvage from the first session, it's that the name itself is spelled kind of funny.
That's what we talked about.
Thank you for letting me be myself again.
And that'll be in the Spotify playlist, the Vin and Phil Show on Spotify. Check it out. You can follow along. Take it away, Vin. Sorry, just my little plug.
Yeah, definitely. Written, so thank you for letting me be myself again. Written by Sly Stone, key of E, an ambiguous key of E. Released in 1969 as a double-A side single with Everybody Is a Star. What a double A side is, I couldn't fucking tell you because I was born in the 80s, but yeah, it sounds just like a fucking, it was a single and it wasn't put on an album, I don't think it was ever really on an album. I have a little story about where it almost was, but it wasn't put on anything until after the band broke up, basically, and it was on like a greatest hits for the first time on like an LP. It's the only single that the band released between the years of 1969 and 1971, which is crazy. So we're talking the end of the Sly and the Family Stone era, their career as a band together. It was number 1 on the Soul charts. It was number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 chart for February 1970. And it was intended to be on an LP that included like Hot Fun in the Summertime and something else I can't remember. I didn't write it down. But it was intended to be on an LP, and it was taken off for some reason, or the LP never happened, actually. I think is what the story is. The song, kind of like my James Brown song, and kind of like it was intended. The original recording of it was much longer than what most people know of the tune.
Seems to be a running theme for a lot of these tunes. Let's be honest, they get locked in a groove, and even whether there's drugs involved or not, we all know how hypnotic those grooves can be.
Look, I've been stone cold sober and been, like high on the music,
exactly,
to the point where like the groove never has to end as long as everyone's in that same playing field, while you're jamming together. These songs, I mean, what funk is really cool is that like early in modern American music, I guess we'll say from the 50s on, like funk is really the one style that takes that jams. Like they're jams for the most part.
Sure.
So the original cut is 6 minutes and 18 seconds long. But that version was never released until the 1990s, where it was put on a promotional compilation by Columbia Records. The version most people know, the one that was played on the radio and anyone from the 60s and 70s know, is the 4-minute and 48-second version. Which is pretty sweet. It's the only version I've ever known. So this song has that really, really iconic bass line by the one and only Larry Graham. I can't play it perfectly myself, but when you hear it, you know it. If you've never heard this song, it'll be on the playlist, but the bass line you've heard in a million fucking things and in a million movies. It's all over the place. I'll play it an octave up for you, sort of. It sounds like this. If I could play the guitar at all. Right?
Hell
And the
yeah.
bass line is the melody of the tune.
Right. Again,
It's
it's very similar. Yeah, we were talking about in my last one too. You follow the vocal line.
yes, exactly the same way. It follows the vocal line. Or the vocal line follows the bass
Yeah,
line, most
exactly. Hard
likely.
to. Yeah. It's probably that the bass line came first. Yeah,
You know,
probably.
I would say for some in this song, I feel like it was the music came first, and
Well,
lyrically, I'll explain
yeah. There's
maybe not explain,
I,
but give
I
you my
there's
argument
there's
for
another
why.
bassist that came after Larry Graham. I think if I remember, I think Larry Johnson was Michael Jackson's. It played on a bunch of other people's stuff too, but Michael Jackson. There's a couple tunes that are specific, and when you hear the tunes, you go, "This song was written around this bass line." There is no
Hmm.
question, and it's a funk song
That's
automatically.
this. That's
And
this tune is definitely. I feel like Um, the some other cool parts of this song is there's intricate horn lines. They weave through the tune effortlessly. They pop and they slither in and out between the bass and the drums. There's also some a really cool stabbing guitar riff that is sort of counterpoint to the bass line. The whole tune starts with just bass and the bass part and the guitar part happening. They go through that bass riff 2 times.
right.
It's really cool how the two kind of are playing counterpoint to each other, and the guitar really plays in the spaces of the bass line. It's really dope. Um, the vocals on this entire song essentially are all um kind of like doing it to death, and kind of like um the song you talked about, what the
Uh,
hell, why am I blanking on the name?
because everything's similar. The give up the funk.
Yeah, Give Up the Funk. All the vocals on this are all gang style,
Right.
for the most part, where all the band members or whoever in the band is singing, they're all singing in unison, except for when they hit the hook again, the chorus line. Then that you hear some harmonizing between them, but they're all singing.
Right.
You know, the whole time. All the verses are everyone in the band singing it all together. It makes for a really really cool vibe. Lyrically, uh, to me, there wasn't much to read about online about what the song is about, but what I can surmise from reading it myself is like this song seems to kind of every verse kind of goes in a different direction a little bit. It's odd, but it somehow works because this tune is at the end of the day a dance tune. This tune is meant to be played loud in a club or loud live, and it's meant to be danced to. It's the
Well,
perfect tempo.
I'd love to. I'll see if I can find some. I'd love to find out because what if my brain naturally goes,
Lem-
what if they each wrote different verses and then they, like it's and they're saying
that could be so.
thank you for letting me be myself. You know what I mean? It's like this makes sense if
Well,
each one's
that's the
individualized.
thing. The song isn't without meaning. You know
Right.
what I mean? Like I think every verse has a meaning, and the chorus has a definite meaning.
Sure.
Um, the third verse of this tune references Sly and the Family Stone's past hit singles, like Dance to the Music. It
Yeah.
clearly references Dance to the Music, Everyday People,
Sure.
Sing a Simple Song, and You Can Make It If You Try. May be worth putting on the playlist as well
Sure.
after this tune. The third verse clearly references those tunes. Um, I think the song is literally thanking their fans for sticking around through all their adversities. They faced a lot of bullshit. Remember, we're talking about the 60s here, and they were a truly integrated band. There were
Right.
white
Yeah.
people in
Oh
this
yeah. Yeah.
band,
Yeah.
and there were black people. There's mostly black people, but there were white people in this band as well. And this is the 60s, just, we're talking late 60s. So, like, it's the hippie movement, but right after
Still.
the and in the middle of the civil rights
Right.
movement.
Right.
So they caught a ton of shit. There's a story that the Black Panthers reached out to Sly and told him that he has to fire the white people and replace them with black people.
Wow.
Which is crazy, and I
I
can
mean,
see.
I get it. I get it.
I get it. I get it, but that's not where Sly's head was ever
Nah. Right.
at.
Right.
Sly was never at. Sly truly, I think, believed in what he was doing, and that everybody being on the same playing field was much more righteous.
Yeah. I mean, then this song says it.
And this song says it. And I think that, yeah, like I said, this song has not that, like, just because I can't figure out what the verses mean doesn't mean that the song
Exactly.
doesn't
Well,
have purpose.
because the chorus is it. That's it. That's. I mean, I guess that's kind of what you were saying. It's a dance song, and all that really matters is that the title of the song,
Yeah.
and that makes you feel good. Just saying that lyric, man, like that, you can
Yeah.
understand
Oh my
how.
God.
Like
It gives, every time I listen to the song, it gives me goosebumps.
Yeah.
And the other thing too, with the hook and with the chorus, is that this song, like I said before, comes at the end of their collective career as a band, and I think Sly kind of knew it.
Mhm.
And this was like it
The
feels
farewell.
like a farewell.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like yeah, shit between us is starting to go sour, but
But up
I
to here,
think he
thank
was
you.
grateful to have been able to create the music for the people, and he was also grateful too because, like, kind of like Parliament, um, these guys these guys kind of paved the way for Parliament, where they were like the first, like, psychedelic funk.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Where,
Sure.
like,
No.
in
Yeah.
that, if you could call that a subgenre
No.
of
No. No.
funk.
You're absolutely. There's absolutely different time periods within funk.
Yeah, and so I think he's thanking people for sticking around through all the bullshit that they endured as an integrated band, and also thanking them for the great years of music that he was able to make, and
Sure.
for being able to fly his freak flag freely.
Nice. No.
Now,
Very, very cool.
Now, the last thing I'll say about this song, like I said, this song is lyrically, just because, like I said, I can't find a common thread in the verses, doesn't mean shit. Like I said, the third verse references their other big hits from the past, and this was kind of one of their last big ones. But there's the fourth verse, the last verse of this tune, has some of the most I guess I would say poetic. I just want to read the last verse for you.
Go ahead.
And even before I do, just note that musically and sonically, what happens on this last verse is the only verse that does this, where they put an effect on the group voices
Sure.
for this verse that are almost like you're hearing them through a telephone.
Filter kind of thing.
And yeah, like some sort of, yes, exactly. But here's the lyrics: flaming eyes of people fear, burning into you. Many men are missing much, hating what they do. Youth and truth are making love. Dig it for a starter. Dying young is hard to take. Selling out is harder.
Oh wow.
That's some heavy. I mean, the rest of the lyrics
Some kind of just like
are
just
fun,
kind of there. Yeah.
you know.
They're just kind of.
But then he drops, or whoever wrote this I'm assuming it's Sly that wrote this. That last verse drops on you, dude. Let me read it again. I'll read it a little bit faster. Flaming eyes of people fear burning into you. Many men are missing much, hating what they do. Youth and truth are making love. Dig it for a starter. Dying young is hard to take. Selling out is harder. Woo!
Yeah, no. Uh, Listen, it's
Killer,
easy,
killer lyrics.
it's easy to overlook because and that's the
Because it's such a fun tune. And this is another one too that where why they didn't just put that six. I mean, obviously it probably wouldn't have worked on radio to have a 6 minute song back in 69 or 70, you know. But this is another tune where the groove you just want to go forever. Like this tune could be fucking a half hour long and you'd never get tired of it,
sure.
you know. But yeah, that fucking last verse hits you. Like when you see that's what the lyrics are, that's heavy,
Oh yeah.
heavy lyrics.
Nah, for sure, man.
It's twice as heavy as everything else. Let me read you the third verse that references their songs because it almost makes, not that it doesn't make sense, but he's saying something with it. But the third verse is dance to the music all night long. Everyday people sing a simple song. Mom's so happy, mama start to cry. Papa's still singing. We can make it if we try. So it's good. It's not that it's not a bad lyric, but everything else is kind of in that vein, where
Sure.
it's
Just having fun, but playing
it's
around.
having fun to some extent. The first verse is a little heavy too, but it almost to me just it's just one line after another, where that last verse is saying something to me.
Sure. Word. Hell
It's
yeah,
a
man.
crazy lyric. It's a crazy, and I did not expect. I mean, I've listened to this tune thousands of times in my life. I mean, I've been a big Sly fan, especially a lot of my funk experience comes from Berkeley because funk is huge at Berkeley, or was when I was there.
Interesting.
And that's where I really dug deeper. Not like I've said last week, not that this is a genre I fully know, that I've fully studied. But the bands that I love, like James Brown and like Sly and Parliament and shit, that's where I really got into that stuff. And
Mhm.
I've listened to the song thousands of times. I've blasted it in my car in the summer with the fucking windows down so many times, but I never knew that that's the last fuck. That's what the lyrics are in the last verse.
Yeah,
And
man.
they're heavy.
Nah, for sure. Digging deep there, Vin.
Yeah, man.
Nice. Also,
That,
is that what you got? I mean, not like
that's
it's
what
not
I
like
got, man.
it's not like all you got. I mean, like is that that's very respectable what you got. A very
That is what I got with that tune, man. That tune is fucking awesome. Play that tune loud
yeah.
and
Well, so
dance your ass off. Play it multiple times in a row. That's how I do it.
excellent. So we like I said, we've got this playlist that you guys should check out. It's just on the Spotify, It's on Spotify. It's a playlist called Vin and Phil Show. It's all caps. Um, Honestly, this playlist is coming along amazingly. I mean, it's
It's
helpful to follow.
dope.
It's hopeful to follow along with the show, but really it's and especially now we're mixing in some of the songs that are influenced by these other songs, and you go and you hear them back to back, and I think it'll be really cool. And I think ultimately this will really show a timeline of how the music worked. You know what I mean? And I think to me
Yes.
that's the coolest
And
stuff.
don't be afraid too when you're watching these videos too. Now that we're pre-recording them to stop the video and go to that playlist and listen to the song, what, and then listen to what we say about it, or in any order you want to do that in, or listen to
Absolutely.
the whole show and then listen to just the newly added tunes that we put on there.
Exactly. And while you're doing
We'll
that, you could just go ahead and jump on Venmo
That's
and
right.
you can go ahead and find Mr. Vincent at Vincent-Mott, and you can send him a little love his way for his excellent knowledge, because he dropped some gems on us today with some Sly the Family Stone.
Hell
And
yeah.
and if you feel like you might want to support my brother Phil over here, it's at Phil-Silverberg on Venmo. That's silver like the metal, BERG, not URG. That's a common mistake. It happens all the time. But and I think
Motherfucker.
I don't know that I don't know that I'm ready to come to a decision on exactly what we want to do next week, because we can
Yeah.
definitely do more funk. We can get deeper. It keeps going. We know
It's
that.
like anything, man. We could just keep going. I mean,
I think if we do, again, it's gonna continue. It's gonna start to keep leading us into
hip hop
either
and
hip
shit.
hop, a bunch of other stuff, everything. You know what I mean? So we can really kind of decide and go, okay, what happened next? And so yeah, maybe we'll either use next week as a transition week again, and maybe do another funk song and then something that came out of it, or whatever. But maybe we won't want to make that decision right now. Last thing,
Cool.
everybody, we need a name for our show. Vin and Phil Show is fine, but there is definitely something better, and we are just not that clever. I mean, maybe we are, but maybe we're just too lazy. Either way, we need your help. And if you guys have any suggestions, feel free to drop a message or comment in YouTube or on Facebook, or you can just send a text message to me directly and let me
That's
know.
right.
Let
Or
Vin
me.
know. Yeah, absolutely. No, not Vin. Don't let him know. Might get lost.
You don't want to know the suggestions that I've made to
Yeah,
Phil
no,
already.
we
They're
there was a
pretty
few,
awful.
there was a few. No, they weren't necessarily awful. They I don't know if they're too hot for TV.
Too hot. Yeah, too controversial. Too controversial.
But thank you guys for tuning in. We're gonna keep flying this way. Vin and I love doing this, so we'll definitely be back and keep checking them out. And I think that's pretty much a wrap for us. What do you say, Vin? Should we give him the typical deuces?
Deuces.
All right, word.